This is the dark time, my love. All round the land, young beetles crawl about. The shining sun is hidden in the sky. Red flowers bend their heads in awful sorrow. This is the dark time, my love. It is a season of oppression, dark metal and tears. It is the festival of guns, the carnival of misery. Everywhere, the faces of men are strained and anxious. Who comes walking in the dark night time? Whose boot of steel tramps down this slender grass? It is the man of death, my love, the strange invader, watching you sleep and aiming at your dream.
These poems always had a very striking importance for them. They would readily understand his words and his images and pictures. Because very often there are people on that dray taking greens and ground provisions to the market for sale. The point was that we saw the poet as an artist of a peculiar kind of sensitivity who could make reality clearer to the rest of us. And in fact, what I said there was not a question of theory or theorization. It was what Martin Carter was actually engaged in doing.
And it revealed some very depressing statistics that an average family of 4.5 persons was earning $7.41 per week and spending $8.23 per week.
Oh, yes. Good evening and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101. Opening this evening there with excerpts from the film The Terror and the Time, done by the Victor Haro Collective, directed by Dr. Rupert Rupnarain. Ray Krill, who is not well known to you. Others like Brian Rodway were involved in making that film, The Terror and the Time, directed by Dr. Rupert Rupnarain. It's there on YouTube. I think all of us Guyanese should look at it. It's a film about the decolonization movement in Guyana, chronicling especially the moments leading up to the suspension of the constitution in Guyana in 1953 and the invasion of Guyana by the British. For the young people and not so young in the audience, yes, our first elected government in July of 1953. Yes, July of 1953. The first self-government under universal adult suffrage, where Guyanese, still a colony, still British Guyana, Guyanese went to elections for the first time with a new constitution, universal adult suffrage, and elected our first self-government in 1953. It was the old PPP, not this new PPP, the old PPP. The old PPP. These new guys took the name with them. The old PPP, founded in 1950, included Dr. Cheddy Jagan, Forbes Burnham as chairman, Janet Jagan as general secretary, UC Guyana, then Sidney King, assistant general secretary, and others such as Ashton Chase, who's still alive. He and Guyana from that group are the ones who are still alive. Martin Carter, Rory Westmus, Dr. Lachman Singh, Dr. Joseph Lachman Singh was part of that group. Jane Phillips Gay, Forbes Burnham's sister, they were all part of that. Jaina Ryan Singh, they were all part of that early PPP. And they went to the election and won it in 1953 in July and formed the first government. The first 6 government ministers were Cheddy Jagan, Forbes Burnham, Ashton Chase, Dr. Lachman Singh, Jaina Ryan Singh, and Sidney King, now AUC Guyana. That was our first self-government. Our first self-government. Dr. Jagan was named premier. What was the name of, later on it became prime minister when we became independent. And that government lasted for 133 days. They committed some high crimes and misdemeanor, that government. Some high crimes and misdemeanor. They put a ban on foreign literature coming into British Guyana. There was a ban on what was called socialist literature and black literature coming into Guyana. They removed that ban. That was a big crime they committed. They moved education from the control of the churches to control of government, what we now know public education. That was a big crime committed by them. They made it possible for poor Guyanese to go to Queen's College and bishops. That was a big crime they committed. And they made it possible for workers to be represented by trade unionists, by the trade union, sorry. That was a big crime. In fact, that was as they said, the straw that broke the camel's back. And the British sent troops into their own colony, invaded Guyana in October of 1953, 70 years ago. 70 years ago, October of 1953, the British invaded Guyana. They suspended the constitution and they locked up most of the leaders. They locked up most of the leaders and they put in place an interim government. The governor said they were afraid that Guyana was going to become a communist country under the PPP. And I just told you the communism that they practice. And that eventually led to the split of the original PPP in 1955. But that film, The Terror and the Time, chronicles the developments. It was a hectic time. In the year 1953, the Americans invaded Guatemala and overthrown the government of Guatemala, the elected government there. Regime change because that government nationalized the United Fruit Company, which was an American banana company. And they also overthrown the government of Iraq. Mossadegh, the prime minister there, and he moved to nationalize the oil company there in Iran. So it was a year, and that's what they said, the terror and the time. It was a time, it was during the Cold War. It was the beginning of the Cold War. During that time, there was the Korean War going on, which led to the split of Korea, as we Guyanese would say, Korea, between North Korea and South Korea. There was the Mau Mau War, the War of Independence going on in Kenya, as we Guyanese said in those days, Kenya. The British didn't want to leave Kenya. And Kenyan patriots took to the bushes and waged the war. It was called the Mau Mau War, M-A-U, Mau Mau War. The War of Independence. Only recently, the British has decided to compensate the descendants of the Mau Mau. It was a vicious war. In fact, that Mau Mau War is significant for something I want you all to learn here tonight. The locks that we wear today, the dreadlocks, the British would bring films of the war and show it on BBC to the British colonies. And the Rastafarians and young people in Jamaica, they saw the Mau Mau fighters who were fighting in the bush, and so they didn't have time to comb their hair, and because they were in the bush fighting, and their hair became matted. And the young people in Jamaica saw that, and they began to emulate it. That is how Rastafarian locks got invented. Dreadlocks came out of that Mau Mau War. So you all learned something here tonight. The origins of the dreadlocks. It was looking at our brothers and sisters fighting in the bush against the British in 1953, the Mau Mau War. In fact, Guyana and Martin Carter, and I think Rory Westmus, they went on a hunger strike while they were in jail after the British invaded and locked them up, Carter and Guyana and Westmus and others, they went on strike. Sorry, they went, I'm not sure Rory was in prison, might have been, but certainly Martin Carter and Guyana, and they went on a hunger strike while in prison. They were at, in those days, there was a prison there at Timeri. I think they have one there still now, Atkinson Field. And they went on a hunger strike in solidarity with the Mau Mau fighters in Kenya. And it was while Martin Carter was there locked up that he wrote most of his poems that became known as poems of resistance. And you saw in that clip, you heard Martin Carter reciting, "This is the dark time, my love. This is the dark time, my love." So it was quite a time in the history of the world. 1953 was the first attack by Fidel Castro and his band. The first time they made an attempt for the Cuban Revolution, the attack on Moncada. They were caught, they were tried, and they were imprisoned. And they then got out of prison a few years after then, and then they went to Mexico and reorganized and went back to Cuba and created the Cuban Revolution of 1959. So some history there for you all. And Guyana was very much part of that history of the world in 1953. You see, what I want us to understand as Guyanese is that we are part of world history. We are not penny people. People, you say, we're not jail people. We're not regular, normal, we're not ground dove, as Teacher George would say, and we are eagle. Soar, high, and we're not ground dove. Guyana's been part of world history. I've said on this program over and over again, the 1763 revolution was part of the age of revolution in the world. The French Revolution, the American Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and the 1763 Guyana Revolution, when Kofi and others captured Berbice and held it for months. We learn our history here not to beat people up or to say that we are superior, but to say that we are a people that have always been part of the flow of history in the world. And certainly the history of the 1950s, when it's written, Guyana will be very, very up on world history. World history. Our village movement has not been replicated anywhere in the world. World history. And so I'm giving you all those bits of history to strengthen us, so that when these little tin gods are trying to crush our spirit and to reduce us to less than ground doves, for you all to understand that you all don't deserve that. We don't deserve that. As the old people would say, the old Africans would say, Congo a high nation, picnic. Congo a high nation. Note, unlike Ravidev, who said Hindus are a superior nation, a superior culture, our foreparents were much wiser. They weren't dictators. They were democratic people. Oh, picnic, Congo, high nation. It would never occur to them to come out of their mouth to say Congo, a superior nation. Congo, a high nation, me picnic. We teaching Ravidev and them democracy, because they're not Democrats. That is why the dictatorship that the PPP is practicing A lot of them are comfortable with it because their mindset is a mindset of superiority. We are deaf. We are deaf. Your people came to Guyana and they brought their culture. They brought Diwali, and the other groups are celebrating it. We didn't have to proselytize. He mean that we didn't have to go and beat them to do it. He said because of our superiority is insinuating. So when you all are celebrating Diwali and Pagwa as a form of synthesis and syncretism, because Indians and Africans and Amerindians are mixed in the same place, we're going to borrow things from each other. The Indians are going to take some African things, and the Africans are going to take something from India. That is syncretism. Ravi Dev sees it as the superior culture, having the inferior people practice their culture. Oh no, Congo, a high nation, picnic, not superior. Congo, a high nation. And Guyanese of all races, we are part of world history, have always been there. As history is unfolding, and today, with oil wealth coming here, we are poised again to become part of the flow of world history as we go deep into the 21st century. Can we use our oil wealth to make the Guyanese eagle a democratic eagle? Teacher John say, you watch me? Me na ground dove. Me a eagle. Can the Guyanese eagle be a democratic eagle? Can the Guyanese eagle soar with all its people on its wings? We Africans, if I got a wing like a dove, I would fly. And if I don't got wings, what do? I'm gonna sing, 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 sing. If I got a wings like a dove, I would fly, fly away. Because we are always flying away from oppression, flying away from dictatorship. And if we can't fly, we're gonna sing. They try to capture us like dogs again a few weeks ago, under the guise of an election, local government election. Use the occasion of the local government election to try to capture us and turn us again into ground doves. And if you turn Africans into ground doves, eventually you're going to turn Amerindians into ground doves and poor East Indians into ground doves. But they tried. And what we did? We put on our wings and we fly away. And those of us who couldn't fly, we sang. This past week, the new governments in Georgetown and Linden and New Amsterdam were put in place, and in the NDCs. We want to focus on Georgetown and Linden and New Amsterdam because that's where they sought to turn us into ground dolls. So I have a friend tonight. Mr. Leland Saul, who is the finance man, the new chairman of the finance committee at the Georgetown City Council. He's here with us tonight. And you all know Leland. Leland was the CEO in the Ministry of Housing, I think, under the coalition. He recently founded an anti-discrimination group that held a few activities a couple of months ago. So he's no stranger. He's no stranger. Welcome to Politics 101, the place where we meet, greet, and we learn, and we teach. I'm laughing. I'm laughing not because there is humor. I'm laughing because laughter is a form of struggle. It's a scorn on those who represent scourge. Thank you all. Thank all of you, good people. And my God. Sister George used to say, me not boss. But oh God, people meet me. That time, Politics 101, I don't miss it. Every night, Politics 101. Sister George said, me not boss. Me just attack truth. Thanks to all of you all. We are grateful to be part of the tradition of learning and teaching as a form of rebellion, as a form of struggle. Because when we teach and learn, we're not only teaching and learning for ourselves, we are teaching everybody else, and we are learning for everybody else. I am so proud of us. I'm so proud of us. So proud of us. I'm so proud of you all. Mr. Morgan, Albert Morgan, one of the founders of Politics 101, because when Politics 101 came on the air, he was one of the first people in the audience. Front seat, as we say, front seat. He wasn't in the balcony. You know, in the old days, you go and see picture, you're there in pit. They're at the bottom, but it's the closest to the screen. Morgan was here. And Morgan, for expressing his frustration, they're harassing that man up and down. They charge you when they're insatisfied, they're going to your home every day. Harassing that man. But we've got the lawyers. On the case. Our solidarity with Mr. Morgan. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to you, Ian. Good evening to you, Donna Brown, my family. Good evening, Famo. Good evening to you, Dennis Collison, who is a regular. Good evening to all of you, Yvonne Williams, all of you. Good evening, Lawrence Stoll. I'm a little bit talkative tonight. A little bit talkative. But I'm going to bring in, it's that time. I'm bringing in Leland because Leland is a Belladrum man. And you know, when I was in funeral yesterday, one of my young friends and supporters got licked down on the road again. Another one, young boy. And we buried him yesterday. And the preacher, 7 days preacher, you know, we grew up together. and he's a 7 days preacher in Belladrum and Myconi, and he say he does boast and tell the Belladrum people boxing is the best way. He does get hell with them because Belladrum and them is not 3 cents people. They don't take it so easy. When you tell them boxing the best village, they go lick back and fight back. And he says he and them, he and them, he and them, he and them, and so on. Leland is a Belladrum man, and me I want he said this box man invite he and not bring it here. So let me bring on Mr. Saul, who took me, Ian Lincoln, they took me last year, 1st of August, to Belladrum. My days where I spent my 1st of August. That's such a wonderful time. Brother Leland, good evening.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Dr. Hines. Good evening to your viewers. And this year, let me take the opportunity also to invite you to Belgium on the 1st of August again. This time around, we will have Mr. Hamilton Green. He will be making a presentation. It will be a pleasure to have you there also.
Thank you very much.
So I'm looking forward to see you.
Right.
We want to mobilize as much young people as possible because we believe it's important that we must educate our people on the past. They must understand our culture. And that is very important if we are to defeat the evil cabal. Yes. I mean, you have seen what happened during the local government election. What we have witnessed is it was vote buying and coercion, and that is not good for democracy. But I tell you what, I think we have to read deep into what the PPP's tactics. They're trying to dominate us, and you would have made mention to what Ravi Dev would have said. And when I look at this whole issue of the PPP attitude towards local government, I am deeply worried because when our ancestors walked off those plantations, they bought villages and they established a system of governance in those villages. And everything is being rolled back because right now you have, even though in areas where the opposition is controlling, they're not allowed to exercise political power. The central government will come into those areas and they're executing projects without consulting with the major stakeholders, the local governments, the citizens, etc. And so you don't know what they're doing. The outcomes of these projects are not clear. And so it gave one the impression that these projects are basically designed to satisfy the financial needs of few people within the society. We need to govern this country in a better manner. And even as I speak on these issues, I recognize that general election, national and regional election will be in 2 years. And we have not done anything in terms of constitutional and electoral reform. And so I'm worried that we will go forward or enter another election cycle under the same system that has not served us well.
Has not served us well. And that's Leland Saul, a Belladrum man. And the Belladrum people coming out here tonight. You have here Drew Young. Drew said, Dr. Hines, my father from Belladrum. His father's house is on my status. And then we have Terry Ann Granville. You got to know the Granville. I mean, when I'm saying Belladrum, don't get the thing sideways. Belladrum and El Dorado together, right? You know, Belladrum is like the big sister, but it's Belladrum El Dorado. Terry Ann Granville from there. Good evening to you, Terry Ann, who is also a founder member of Politics 101, one of the originals, coming here from New Jersey. Valdine Kendall, who the other day said, Dr. Hines for Prime Minister. I never get such a big accolade before. Good evening to you, Val Dean, Kendall, and thanks for bigging me up. Leland, Belgium, El Dorado, right?
Yes, actually, you know, El Dorado is a satellite of Belgium, likewise Paradise and Golden Fleece. But we call the district Belgium, and I rather suspect it's because in earlier times, most of the significant activities were centered around Belgium itself. We had a church. We are an Anglican community originally, and so the church was there, and the school was there, and almost everybody in the village was Anglican. And we also had one of the first bank in West Berbice was in Belgium, and it served the people of Belgium and Litchfield, and it was managed by the Reverend Bergen, a distinguished gentleman from Betterforwachten. He was an Anglican priest.
Canon
Actually,
Bergen.
Yeah, Grenville Bergen.
He served in Buxton for plenty years. I think he served in Buxton for 30-something years. His children, I think the last of his daughters died the other day. She always considered herself a Buxtonian because I think she might have been born there. But anyhow, yes, I know Canon Bergen, or know of him very well, yes.
Right, and he was also the land settlement officer. He was appointed a land settlement officer for the lands in Belgium because after the villages were bought, no transport was issued until 1924. So for all the years after emancipation, until 1924, and we normally argue and said that Belgium and El Dorado was bought in 1838, the very year we walk off the plantation, because those were abundant cotton plantation. Of course, the planters were interested in recovering their investment. And so the monies that were earned during the period of apprenticeship, they bought those villages. No transport was issued until Canon Bergen was appointed the land settlement officer by the governor. I think it was in 1914 he was appointed, and by 1924, the first set of transports were issued.
A little bit of history there by Leland on El Dorado, Belgium, Paradise area there on West Berbice. I always contend, with all due respect to Buxton and all the others, I think West Berbice is a special part of the African civilization in our Guyana. There's something that you feel in your bones and you feel it in the sun, to quote the poet Robin W. from Suriname. Something you feel in your bones and you feel it in the sun when you go to West Berbice. And I ain't saying this because Leland Day. You all know I always say that. There's something. When I see them Belgium people put the house, I see them lift up the house. Y'all remember when they killed them by at number 5? And they had the protest on West Berbice. You all see when them lift up the house, put it on the shoulder and put it on the road. It was not just the physical strength. It was something about the presence of mind, the extension from Africa through the Middle Passage, and everything that we have learned went into that action, and it remains indelibly imprinted in my mind to this day, because I think it represents something about resistance of African people that is so unique, not superior, unique. Leland, you remember that moment?
Yes, I do remember that moment. when my countrymen take that particular action. Of course, it was in resistance to what was happening. Today, we're better. The condition remain the same. And I would say it is even worse. And we must continue to resist. I believe there's a deliberate attempt to break the will of Africans here in Guyana. And I want to compare it to Nazi siege of Stalingrad. Stalingrad was the pride of Russia. And so the Germans dump everything there. And so what we have now in Guyana, when we look at the local government election, there was a deliberate attempt to take control of the African villages. And that is why all of these resources went into vote buying and coercion to get people to break the back of the Africans. It was not genuine. And so when you look at the amount of monies that were spent in Georgetown, the PPP was saying we must control Georgetown. We must teach these people a lesson. It was not genuine. And I trust even as we go take up the municipal government, I only trust that we will have a decent working relationship with central government. But I doubt whether, because already we have seen the president was in Newtown and he walked with the PPP councillor elect. And then we see Jack Dio in Laying Avenue, and they're making all sort of promises. I believe that the local government system should work. It has served us well, as I mentioned earlier. When our ancestors walked off the plantation, they started the village movement. And the villages were properly organized. There was a system of governance, and we had our own government in place to take care of internal matters in those communities. And so to come now and to erode that system and to show total disregard for culture, we come out of a culture where we were taking care of our villages. And why you don't want to support us now? Why you want to break our cultural system? Are you showing total disregard for tradition? And even with all these resources, I will expect that central government will help to move or to improve on local government. Yes, I understand that Guyana is a unitary state and they would want at times central government can regulate the political power that is being allocated to these local government areas. But it is not done in a uniform manner. There's a deliberate attempt to target those local government areas that did not vote for the PPP. We cannot continue to govern like this. It does not serve us any good. And I will urge people in local government area that did not vote for the PPP to push back. You cannot allow this to happen. You must resist such crude attempt to deny you that right, that our ancestors fought for. We must demand that we be treated properly by central government. We must never accept what is going on. And what the government has done cleverly, they have made people so poor that it becomes very easy to control people. And we see that during the local government election. So they go there and they were buying people. A lot of racist statements were made. I met him today and he told me that an Indian guy from the PPP was putting up party paraphernalia, and he came in front of his place and he told the guy, "Don't put it up here, man. You can't do that. I don't want that thing in front of my business." And he said, the guy boldly said to him, "Who you talking to? Black man is the cheapest thing to buy."
Wow.
You know. And there was a confrontation. He cuffed the guy, he broke the guy's nose. And by the way, he's at the ERC taking counseling. He has to go for counseling at the ERC. All right. So that is it.
Yes,
But I
yes.
want to make the point that, this attempt to make people poor so you can control them. And so when they control you in that manner, there's not much you can do. And that vicious cycle of poverty will continue because your kids go to the public school. And we know if they go to the public school, you have to send them for extra lesson. You don't have the means to send them to extra lesson. If you get sick, you have to go to the public hospital. And we know what goes on there. And then you're being fed a diatribe of trash from the mainstream media. So it's total control of people. And that is what we are faced with in this country. And so people can no longer make the sound decision and so on. But we need to work. And we have to work hard to ensure we get the message out and educate people and get people to understand. And I want to call upon my African brothers and sisters, especially those that live in the villages. Our ancestors did a good thing. They bequeathed us land, one of the major factors of production, and we have to make use of those lands. And if, as I speak to you, about 2 weeks ago, I was on the East Coast. I was getting a meeting with some folks in Paradise Bachelor Adventure, and we were looking at the issue of ancestral lands in those villages. From all indication, those villages should have similar depth like Buxton and Victoria.
Yes,
But at
yes,
Bachelor
yes.
Adventure, it is not so. At Golden Grove, it is not so. As Addison, it is not so. And Paradise. And these issues, we need, or that particular issue, we need to address it because I tell you what, I think some time ago I read somewhere the Attorney General went to Golden Grove and was issuing leases to people in the back dam.
Yes,
Lands
yes,
that our ancestors bought. Our people need to be educated. They must not accept that. We own it, and they should go and occupy those lands. There's evidence to show that we own those lands were bought by our ancestors. So we need to do a lot of work to educate our people, and they must know what they own and what belongs to us. And let me just move briefly, as you know, that a new council was sworn in.
yeah, yes,
And
yes.
I am the chair for the finance committee. That committee comprises 7. 6 APNU, 1 PPP. Unfortunately, I would say, because ideally I would like to see us in this country generally, whether you're PPP or you're PNC, we should be able to work in a more cohesive manner. And even with the allocation of responsibility at the national level and the local government level, we should do it in a much more fair manner. But unfortunately, this is the situation in Guyana, by the way. The finance committee is basically meant to monitor and evaluate the performance of the city treasurer's um, department. And therefore, we have to put mechanism in place to ensure that we garner adequate revenue and monitor the expenditure, among the other things. Also, we would plan, or we will conceptualize, initiate, plan, execute, monitor, and evaluate, and see the closeout of all projects. Those are just some of the things that we should do. I trust that we will be able to raise enough revenue to execute the municipal's work program. From what I was told, that is a challenge. One of the biggest indebted to the municipality, by the way, central government, and so we need to address that issue. In terms of the ordinary citizens who might be indebted to the municipality, we need to establish exactly what is the problem, why they're not paying, and see how we can assist them. Because, mind you, we're living in a country where 48% of our people are living below the poverty line. And therefore, we must bring some measure of relief to those people who are indebted. I'm talking about ordinary citizens who might be indebted to the municipality. We have to work with
Tell me
them.
something, Leland. I'm glad you touched on that. What is the rates and taxes system in the capital city? Or how are taxes levied? Is it a flat tax across the board? Do businesses pay more tax from residents? Do residents in poor areas pay less taxes from residents in richer areas? Tell us,
It's based on the valuation of your property.
There you go.
And you might very well find that a property was the valuation was done. It might be, let's say, an area like Bel Air. Maybe the valuation was done in the 1970s.
But that's what I was just about to ask. Is
the
there
rate will be lower?
Regular valuations?
The rate might be lower than someone who recently constructed or reconstructed a home in South Rumvels.
Yeah.
So, but generally, businesses ought to be paying more. And I would want to believe that we have to move to a point where, based on the, what should I say, the status of the neighborhood, that should dictate how people should pay. Because if you live in an exclusive community, you should not pay the same rate like someone who's living in All by Stone. It therefore means that perhaps we need to relook at the whole zoning of the city. While you have the general zone, residential and commercial, etc., but even among residential, you can perhaps further have categories, and it will make it easier for evaluation purposes. In modern city, that is what they do. You can probably go on a map and you will know if you acquire a property in Bel Air. If you acquire property in Bel Air, you will pay more on your rates and taxes as against Charleston. And these things should be clear. It should be right there on some websites and so on.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What about, are you all thinking about amnesty, for example? Especially in poorer neighborhoods, to give an amnesty to those who are behind in their rates and taxes, and then give them a chance to start all over again. And I'm not talking about businesses. I'm talking about poor neighborhoods.
We have not met as a council as yet, but I know that our party is not averse to that. I think that we will certainly give amnesty to persons who are way back behind and logging with their payments. It will be foolish for us not to do so. As I mentioned before, we have a very, the poverty rate in this country, and we need to assist people. We want to ensure that they're up in terms of their commitment to the municipality.
In terms of your caucus, the APNU caucus, we have the troubling problem of the city being dirty. Is that high on the priority of the APNU caucus?
Yes, it is. Not only waste management and the sanitation within the city, but there are also other issues that we need to address, like traffic management, burial services, land use plan, and zoning. There's a lot of issue that we need to address. But even as we, our desire to address these issues, they are somewhat affected by central government intervention into the city. We see central government will execute projects in the city, and so it will affect our plan, and they do not consult with us. If you at the from conversation tree going south, they're presently constructing a 4-lane road that will terminate on Dennis Street. I don't know what study was done or if any was done. And so you can understand the problem that will arise from that road. And additionally, you're passing a major road through a residential area, right? Maybe some study was done, but I did not see it. The public is not obviously privy to such study. So I'm saying that basically what I'm saying, even though we have plans and ideas, central government needs to get on board with us because the municipal government is charged with certain responsibility. And so every time central government intervene, they will disrupt that plan that we have. It will be a good thing if they can come or call us to a meeting and say, look, this is our master plan for the city. What is your plan? Let us superimpose our plan over your plan. Let us see how it will work. Let us see how we will affect any projects, any project that you have. Unfortunately, things do not work that way.
Well, we
And
know
so
they have not
such
worked that way in the
situation.
past. We are hoping, as you are saying, that let us hold them to what they said. Even though we may be pessimistic, they said that they're interested in developing the city. I know that they've also said that they would only work with the councillors who were elected from their slate. I don't know they intend to do that, but um, we have to put them to the test and to expose them to people. They said they're interested in developing the city. We know that they weren't interested and they aren't interested, but let's put them to the test. Let's put them to the test and expose them for what they are. Right?
Yes, we definitely we will have to do that, put them to the test. But from what I have seen so far, it is quite clear to me that they have no intention of working with
Intention.
this current council. And it's really worrying. And even through at the time of the campaigning for a local government election, a wooden bridge, a footbridge was constructed in the Sophia area, linking Lamar Springs. And you wouldn't believe it. It's the first time I have seen a bridge painted in red and black.
Oh, Lord, my goodness.
Right? It's just common for, and there's a reason why we put our bridges in white and black or gold and black. It's the first time, you know. And so these folks would not stop with anything.
Yes.
I have also seen in Lot from Val, there's an area that we call Kabaka Square. They constructed a road, and as a result of that road construction, what you have, whenever rainfall, the street flooded more because no consideration was given to the drainage. And this kind of thing we normally we experience the haste in which to deliver to entice people to vote. And this is what is going on. No proper study is being done for a particular project and so on. It's just to say that we have done this and we can do better than this person and so on. You know, as I said, it's all the 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 aim of the central government or the aim of the PPP is to dominate, is to control, is to emasculate, you know. So the first thing I do, I make you poor And once I make you poor, I can control you easy. I come into your community and I said, oh, I'm going to create a job for you. But you know what is your job that times? It's to clean the drains. That is where you belong. That is where you belong. So we have to work against that. And even as you look at, I would want to believe, by the way, Georgetown, and I know for a fact, a cursory glance of the situation in Georgetown, we have a lot of unemployment. But yes, still, recently, as I think it was yesterday, there was a job fair. I think Gisby hosted a job fair, and it was hosted in Region 3. We have very high unemployment in Georgetown. I wonder when such job fair would be hosted in Georgetown, and so we can give all these young people who are unemployed, some of them they have artisan skill, access to employment, the oil and gas
Access to
sector.
employment.
We have to understand what is going on. This is the reality in Guyana. It's one that is designed to make a particular section of Guyana feel worthless. And we have to fight against that. And I can promise anyone that I have dedicated my life to fight against such thing. It is wrong. It must
It
not
is
happen.
wrong. It is wrong. Brother Leland Saul here, the chairman of the finance committee of the newly constituted, newly elected Georgetown City Council on Politics 101. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have the we're going to be talking about the ACTA situation. Recently, ACTA put out a plan of action. That plan of action was responded to by a PPP economist, and he tried his best to um, to criticize the ACTA plan. But I'll have the ACTA people here tomorrow night. Vincent Alexander be here. Dr. Theo Gittens would be here, and I think another member to discuss that ACTA plan. Sorry, that I keep saying ACTA. That IPADG plan, what IPADG is doing. We have pledged to keep that issue on the front burner. And so we're going to have them here tomorrow night. Many of you have asked for a replay of the Ravidev video. I am going to do so before the end of the week. Not sure we'll get it in tomorrow night, but I will endeavor to get it in certainly on Wednesday night. That vicious Ravidev tape that I referred to at the beginning of the program. We certainly going to try to get it in on Wednesday night. So I saw the request from several of you to replay that speech by Ravidev to his Hindu/Indian comrades in India, inviting them to come and to take Guyana. Brother Leland Saul, closing thoughts.
Okay, Doc. I want to invite those folks in the Sophia area on Sunday at 4 o'clock. The Institute for Action Against Discrimination. We have a meeting at the community center at A Field, and I would want to invite people to come out. And we basically will be discussing, identifying, and sorry, we will be discussing issues on discrimination. I cannot recall the exact theme for that meeting at this point in time. I'm so sorry about that. And Doc, to you personally, on August the 6th, we have a function at Kingley where we will be commemorating the the emancipation activities there, and also we will be observing the anniversary of that village. That village was bought in 1850 by Kojo McPherson and Jesse Cameron. And so we want to go there and we want to install a plaque to remind our people of the struggle of our ancestors. Even at this time when attempts are being made to dispossess the McPherson clan of the property at Kingley, we will not back down from that. It belongs to us, and we will defend those lands. I have said that before, and so we go out there to do that. It is important for this at this time for me to say thanks to the people of the municipality for the confidence that they have reposed in us to govern this municipality. I want to assure them that they will see us. We will be out there working with you. The council will not be removed from you. We will maintain contact with you. Um, we will listen to your problems. Whatever are your problems, we will work with you to ensure that we can solve these problems because it is very important. At some point in time, you will have an idea or you can contact us. But in every constituency, even those constituency that where we did not perform well, we will have an office or a counselor that will be dealing with issues in every constituency. And we want to be proactive and not reactive. There's a lot of work to be done, and we are committed to working with you. Love you. Have a good night, people.
Thank
Bye.
you very much, Brother Leland Saul there. And thank you all for, again, coming through and staying with us tonight. To all the wonderful people of Belladrum, El Dorado, Seafield, and further afield in West Coast Bobis. To all of you in Guyana, wherever you are, whether you're in Port Morant, you're in Enterprise, and more, Metamerzog, wherever you are from, whether you're from the interior communities. I know the sisters are keeping that issue of the alleged rape of the child. Today they were out, led by Sister Simona Brooms. They were out at the Square of the Revolution today. I had promised to join them, but some emergency issues got in the way. I wasn't able to get out there, but I certainly will be out there before the end of the week. I'm staying with those sisters who are keeping the issue alive. Thank you all so much tomorrow night. Like I said, Ipadaji people are going to be here talking about their plan of action, and how that is going to impact the African Guyanese community. Thank you all very much. And again, I'm going to play that Ravidef tape on Wednesday. Tomorrow night may not be such a good night, but we'll see. But definitely by Wednesday. Good night, and see you all tomorrow. And as usual, love, 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 love.